Hello and welcome to the Hard to Handle Sports Podcast. My name is Ismael San Juan, and this is episode number 8. 8 episodes. Thank you guys so much for being here. This is your first time tuning in. Thank you. Appreciate you so much. Today's Wednesday, September 30th. Game 1 of the NBA Finals is today. I'm very excited about that. It's been a long season. There's been a lot of, crazy stuff happening. Season got postponed. Just wild, like unprecedented season. It's finally gonna wrap up. We got hopefully some good final games coming up. Week 3 of the NFL finished up. Some crazy games. Falcons, my God, the Falcons. We'll talk about the Falcons. We'll talk about how the Chiefs are super dominant. They look like they're gonna repeat. They just trashed the Ravens. Also, we're gonna talk about EPL Week 3. The two favorites, Liverpool and City, it looks like they're starting off their season a little different. Liverpool looked dominant against Arsenal. They look like a great team again. I feel like they're hitting the stride again. And then City got trashed by Leicester 5-2. I mean, Leicester kind of do this once a season. They like really destroy a team. Last year they beat somebody like 8-1 or 8-2. Maybe 8-0. I forgot what team it was. I think they got relegated. Or no, I think they actually finished pretty good. It might have been... I forgot who it was, but I digress. It doesn't matter. Leicester trashed City. City are already 6 points behind Liverpool. They do have one game that they haven't played, so I feel like they'll be like 3 points behind them. And I feel like the EPL race is going to be very, very tight. Liverpool's not going to drop many points, so for them to already have a 3-point advantage, it's great for them. So, yeah, just a great weekend of sports. It's Wednesday. We're halfway through the week. We're almost at the weekend. Like right now when all these leagues are going on, there's just so much sports to consume right now. It could be a little overwhelming if you're a sports fan for multiple like sports. But, I mean, you can't really complain. It's sports. It's not that hard to watch. But... like I said, today is Wednesday, September 30th. Game 1 of the NBA Finals is today. Lakers versus Heat. I am a Laker fan, so I'm very happy that they're in the finals. I'm still disappointed that we didn't get to see a Lakers-Clippers game. Lakers series. Clippers versus Lakers series. I'm still disappointed that the Bucks are not in the other conference. I'm upset they didn't come out of the East. I wanted to see Giannis versus LeBron in the NBA Finals. That would have been fun. Especially after he crowned himself the king after a regular season win. I think those are the two final matchups or playoff matchups that I was looking forward to the most, and unfortunately they didn't come through. But the Heat are a good team. They're coached really well by Coach Spoelstra. They have a really good young player in Bam Adebayo. They have Jimmy Butler, who's a dog. He's super feisty. He's just competitive. He was labeled a locker room cancer before. But, I mean, he was with the Sixers. He was with the Wolves. He was with the Bulls. And we all know those are not the best ran franchises. Like the Bulls, since Jordan left, they haven't won anything. It looks like they're a mess. The Wolves, obviously, like, they had Kevin Garnett back in the day, and they could never build a team around him. He left them. And the Sixers, like, trust the process. Tanking, and they got nothing showing for that. So, looking back, it was obviously not Jimmy Butler's fault. It was the franchise's fault. Whoever built that culture in those teams couldn't handle Jimmy Butler. Now he's in a good culture. He's in a good team like the Heat, well-ran franchise, and then they're in the finals. So that's a really feel-good story. Shout out to Jimmy, great player, He's a great player. He's a better competitor. He's just always wants to leave it all on the court. He's just a really good player. Any competitive team would like to have Jimmy Butler on their team. But the Heat don't have a chance. Like, if I'm being honest, how much of a chance do I give the Heat to win this series? Close to none. Like 10% maybe. I see the Lakers winning in 6, maybe 5. Like I've always said this. In the playoffs, superstar talent wins over depth. Like the depth is more useful. It's better in the regular season because it's a long season. You need to space out your team's minutes. Rotations are longer. You get like 10 people playing per game. In the playoffs, your rotation gets smaller. You only really play like 7 or 8 players. So you just need like 2 or 3 to really carry those 8. But that being said, the Heat have depth, but they have quality depth too. They have a lot of good players. If you were to make a list of the best players in the series, Lakers and Heat combined, it would be LeBron, AD, and then it'll be like 5 or 6 Heat players, and then you'll be able to slot like the next Laker player. So I think it would be like LeBron, AD, and then you could put Bam Adebayo, and then Jimmy Butler, and then Dragic, Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and then after Duncan Robinson, that's when you could like put maybe Kuz or Rondo or Dwight or Caruso. That's when you could probably start slotting them in. But I mean, are those 5 players, 6 players between AD and whoever the third best player for the Lakers? Whoever, I mean, it switches. It's not like a concrete. It should be Kuz, but it's not really like always him. So whoever you want to slot in as the third best Laker player, do those 5 or 6 Heat players have enough to make up for the 2 superstar talents that AD and LeBron bring? I don't think so. I don't think they have enough. Like they need someone, and even Bam is a great player, but the difference between AD and Bam is still like pretty big. Is not that close. So I just need like, even if Bam was a little better, if he was closer to AD, and then you have the next 5 players being Heat players in that list, then I think they have a chance. But it's like LeBron, AD, a little gap or like a significant gap, and then it's Bam, and then it's Jimmy, like whoever you want to put that's the number 1 player in the Heat. There's a gap between them and AD. So how do you make up for that talent gap? Great coaching. They do have a great coach, Coach Spoelstra. He actually won 2 rings with LeBron. He hasn't been able to win one since he left, but that's not his fault. It's natural. Once LeBron leaves, he's actually the only head coach that hasn't gotten fired since LeBron leaves that franchise. When he left Cleveland, the head coach got fired. He went to Miami. Spoelstra's still there. He went to Cleveland. Tyronn Lue is no longer there. He's fired. He's the assistant head coach for the Clippers. He might get promoted now that Doc Rivers got fired, but we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. But I think it just shows how good of a coach Spoelstra is, that LeBron was able to leave the Heat and he's still there. He brings them to the finals. Shout out Spoelstra, great head coach. Do I think he's enough to level out the playing field? I don't. It's just 2 superstar talents from that magnitude. 2 first-team All-NBA players, which is crazy. 2 first-team All-NBA. I should say there can only be 5 first-teamers, and the Lakers have 2. That speaks in it of itself. And not even like, they're not just on the team together. They have great chemistry. They're always talking to each other. It looks like they just gel really, really good. And if LeBron's having an off game or an off quarter, because he doesn't really have off games anymore, he just have like maybe like off quarters, AD steps right in, takes over. He doesn't mind just give the ball to AD and score in the post. He could shoot. He's been hitting lights out from the mid range and the 3 in the playoffs. If I were to give the Heat anything, I would say that they do have some wing defenders that they could throw at LeBron, more than probably any team in the league other than the Clippers. But, I mean, the Clippers are gone. But they have Jimmy Butler. They have Crowder. They have Iguodala. And then they have Bam. And all 3 of those wing defenders and then their center, Bam, could, like, do a decent job on LeBron. Jimmy Butler, he's a great defender. He's a little small for LeBron, but he's tough. I'm sure he'll give his best effort, and he'll at least like bother him a little bit. Crowder, he's probably the biggest of their wing defenders. He's pretty stout. He's strong. I, he could potentially give LeBron some trouble. Iggy kind of coined the term of a LeBron stopper, like before Kawhi or like around the same time. But he's getting old. But he could probably give you some minutes where he gives LeBron some trouble, and then bam, he's a center, but he's really really quick on his feet. He could switch onto LeBron. Like if I was the Heat, if I'm not running the zone, like if you're running the zone, it's kind of hard to like pick who's gonna be guarding AD and LeBron. But if I'm the Heat and I go into man, and the Lakers do a pick and roll with LeBron and AD, I want Jimmy Butler and I want Bam Adebayo defending either one. It doesn't matter who's guarding which, but once they force the switch and then you switch like Jimmy onto LeBron and then you put Bam on AD, then you don't feel too bad. Or if it's the other way around, if you force the switch and Bam goes into LeBron and Jimmy covers AD, I feel like that's your best bet because Jimmy's strong. If AD gets the ball on the block with Jimmy defending him, like it's not an automatic bucket for AD. So that's what I would do. I would always have like my two best players guarding their two best players. And the good thing about the Heat is like a lot of teams, they don't want to have like their stars or their superstar guarding like the other team's best players just because they want to save him on offense. Like they're like, should we sacrifice you on defense in order to stop or slow down the other team's best players? But then if we do that, like we're kind of sacrificing you on the offensive side. Like you're not gonna be able to score buckets that we need to stay in this game. The Heat don't need the Heat aren't solely dependent on Bam and Jimmy getting their buckets. Jimmy could have 13 points and they could still win. Maybe that's not true against the Heat, but that happened against the Celtics and they still win. So like they could still get their points from Dragic. Dragic could give them 20 to maybe 30. He's probably on that 26 sweet spot is what he's gonna be giving them, or like under 26 and under. Tyler Hero, we saw him go off against the Celtics. He scored a 37, I think on game 3 or game 4. So he could at least give him another 20, 25 consistently, probably 20 consistently, and then Duncan Robinson could go off and he could get you like another 20, and then just in the flow of the game, Jimmy will get like minimum 13 to 15 points, and Bam like just on putbacks and just being a center, you don't have to really run offense for him. He'll get his 15, and then right there you got your points. So it's not like a crazy idea to just be like, Bam and Jimmy, just let the offense come to you. Whatever happens on the offensive side, it's cool. Just focus on stopping AD and LeBron, and then on offense we'll figure it out. I think that's very much in the cards. That could definitely be something Spoelstra tells them, like, all right, you know what? Like, we got to stop him. We got to slow him down for us to have a chance. And you guys might be able to just defer the offense to the other guys. And if that doesn't work, then we could try like a more team-oriented defense, and then try to get Jimmy his buckets or get Bam his buckets. But that's the way I could see the Heat, having a chance in this series. They do have a 2-3 zone that they could deploy. It worked against the Celtics pretty good. There's only like a couple instances where the Celtics were actually able to collapse the defense and get like open shots. I don't think it'll work that well against LeBron and the Lakers, just because LeBron is a very 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 smart player, and he usually has feel out games. Like game 1, he'll like kind of like not throw the game, but just kind of coast and see what the other team's throwing at him and then adjust from there. So if he does that, I feel like by game 2, he'll have the zone figured out and he'll just dissect it. He'll just, he'll know what to do. He'll know how to draw that double team. He'll know how to penetrate the zone, collapse the zone, and find the open shooter. I was watching First Things First, and I saw Chris Broussard break down how he thinks the Heat could beat the Lakers. and he basically said that the Heat are a good team, but they can't really beat the Lakers. The only way that they have a chance is if the Lakers beat themselves. I agree with that. Like he mentions that the Lakers have to miss, they have to go cold from three, which they can, and they have to miss their free throws, which they can, because Lakers, unfortunately, were still one of the worst free throw teams in the league. And we just turnovers, free throws, and missing our threes. That's what he said. Like if the Lakers do those three things, and the Heat are playing good basketball, then they have a chance. And I agree, but I just hope, or I'm pretty like confident that the Lakers are not gonna go like really really like cold from three like they did like in the opening games. I feel like they found their rhythm. And turnovers, I mean, the Lakers aren't like known for having too many turnovers. They do have like their odd game where they have like a lot of turnovers, but for the most part they know how to keep the ball and keep possession. And free throws hurt you a lot. They'll keep teams in the game. So that one does bother. That one, if the Lakers are concerned about one thing, it would be the free throws. And Spoelstra is a good head coach, so he might just start hacking. Like don't think he won't do that. Like if the game's close, he could just start hacking Rondo or whoever, Kuz, or because Kuz is not that good of a free throw. Even LeBron, he might just get in LeBron's head. He did coach him. He's seen him in practice. He might just have the audacity to do a hack of LeBron and then just see if LeBron is able to do it. I don't think he will do that, but you never know. It's the finals. But very excited. We're like, it's 11:32. I think tip off is at 5:30 or 6. So I'm very excited. Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Weird season. It's finally going to wrap up. The Lakers, after 10 years, are back in the finals. They are the heavy favorites. It does look like they should be able to win. I know LA really needs a win. Like they've had a rough last couple years with just like, a lot of their icons dying, like R.I.P. Kobe, and it's just they really need this win. They really, as a city, I feel like they need it. They've been hit hard this last couple years, and hopefully the Lakers are able to bring them some joy. And then just even regular fans like myself, I'm from San Diego. I'm not from LA, but I am a Laker fan. I've been a Laker fan for a while, so it's been a rough 10 years since the last final. It's been a rough 7 years since the last playoffs. It's just I know we're blessed because there's like teams that go 50 years without winning nothing or really having a chance to be contenders, but I mean, hopefully they're able to win the chip and we can celebrate while maintaining social distance. But yeah, NBA finals should be good. If you guys aren't tuning in, I hope you guys tune in. It's gonna be a great finals. It's gonna be fun. Unfortunate that there's no fans could be at attendance. Miami and LA would have been fun, but what can you do? We're in a pandemic, and hopefully, it doesn't linger into next season where it would be at the games. But I wanted to just move on from basketball. There's only the NBA season's wrapping up, so there's not too much else to talk about. I mean, I could talk about Doc getting fired, but are we really surprised that he's gone after the collapse that happened? So let's just get into the NFL season. Week 2 is in the books. We had a lot of great games. I'll put the scores up right here for like the week 2 games. Just so you can see the scores and I don't have to go through them. But there is some games I want to go through, and from week 2 or week 3. My apologies. Rams versus Bills, great game. Bills were able to hold on and win 35-32. Great game. Titans versus Vikings, another great game. Titans won 31-30. Vikings fall to 0-3. I'm gonna talk about that for a little bit. Bears versus Falcons. My God, the Falcons. What's going on with the Falcons? Like, I feel so bad for their fans. We'll talk about that. The Cowboys lost to the Seahawks. Russell Wilson, he's amazing. He's a great quarterback. Packers versus Saints, 37-30 Packers. Another good game. Sunday Night Football. It was a great game. Drew Brees is kind of looking old, so if you're a Saints fan, it's not looking that well. Chiefs versus Ravens on Monday night. That was a that was kind of a shock to me. I thought it was gonna be a closer game, and the Chiefs just handled the Ravens pretty convincingly. So I do feel like the Ravens should make a trade. I'll talk about that. But yeah, those are the games that really stood out to me on week 3 of the NFL. Um, we're already heading towards week 4, which is crazy. NFL season is flying by. I feel like it just got here and now we're already in week 4, which would be like a quarter through the season. But yeah, let's talk about the Rams and the Bills. It was a great game. Um, it's usually hard for West Coast teams to go to the East Coast and play that 10 a.m. or the 1 p.m. on the East Coast, or the 10 a.m. here in the West Coast. But the Rams are actually one of the better teams to travel across the country and do that. And I think maybe you could their slow start that they had, you could point it to, like, the time difference and waking up really early, your clock not being right. So the Bills took a commanding lead, and then I think they blew it. They blew that lead. I think it was 28-3 lead that the Bills had, or 28-6, one of those two. And then the Rams just march back. They take a lead. They lead like 32-30, 32-30, or 32-28 with like 3 minutes left. And then the Bills drive down the field, and then they get the go-ahead touchdown to win 35-32. Great game. A little bit of controversy at the end. They called the pass interference against the Rams that kept like the drive, get the drive going for the Bills to get the game-winning touchdown. Tacky, iffy call. You could go both ways. I don't really have a problem with the call, but I could see if you were a Rams fan, you're like, man, is that really pass interference? He did kind of hold him, but they were both kind of holding each other. I do believe like the Rams player initiated the contact. Some takeaways I got from that game, like everyone I seen like videos on YouTube or like just around the web. Everybody's giving Josh Allen like a lot of credit for having like a great season, like before week 3. And I mean, I agree. I have him on 2 of my fantasy leagues, so having him has been like a pleasure. He gets points and he's getting it done. But he did play like 2 kind of mediocre teams in the first 2 weeks, so I was kind of like, I was ready to hop on the bandwagon, but like not quite, because I wanted to see him do it against like a better team. And the Rams, I thought the Rams were gonna be a bad team this year, but they're surprising me, and I do consider them a good team, like right now and going forward. So for the Bills to beat the Rams, it does show that the Bills, they're legit. They're gonna be like in the playoffs. They're gonna be a strong team, and Josh Allen for the most part had a good game. I think he had like 4 total touchdowns. He looked good. The thing about Josh Allen though is that he makes like rash decisions. Like he never knows how to just take a sack, which is probably like one of his strong points in his games, like the fact that he doesn't give up. But it's also like one of his weaknesses. He threw an interception where he like escaped the pocket and then he just threw it up, and then it got picked off, and that was just like a vintage like Josh Allen like turnover. Like you saw him like escape, extend the play, and then like great, like you evaded a sack, you didn't lose yards, like good for you for like not taking a bad play. And then like once you evade a bad play, like what should you do? Like you should usually once you do that, like that's how a lot of big plays happen. Like you extend the play, you get out of a tough situation, and now since it's been like 6 seconds since you snapped the ball, it's harder for cornerbacks to keep up with their wide receivers. So now you could make big plays. But if it's not there, it's not there. A lot of good quarterbacks that have escapability, like even after they escape a sack or they get around a defender, if it's not there, they'll just like, all right, just throw it away. Like the good play is that I avoided a sack. Like I don't have to force an extra good play on top of evading the sack. And I feel like that's where Josh Allen is like, he still needs to, get it through his head that escaping a sack is good enough. And like if you have more downs, then you could just throw it away and not force the ball. So because that interception that he had is just, it's just like, damn, like you did not have to do that. And it kind of like sparked the Rams comeback. And maybe against the Rams are a good team, but like against like elite teams, like if the Bills have like, they have a solid roster and they look good. If the Bills have aspirations to keep going further into the playoffs and potentially get to Super Bowls and do stuff like that, like those plays might deter you from the goals that you have. But at the same time, you can't, tell Josh Allen to just completely shut it down, because that is what makes him great. You just hope that his good plays outweigh his bad plays. Last season, especially in the playoffs, they didn't, or it looked iffy, like ugh. But now it does look like he's progressing towards, being that quarterback that his good plays outdo his bad plays, and hopefully that's enough for the Bills. I do want to give the Bills credit for trading for Diggs. I feel like Diggs has changed Josh Allen too, in the sense that it gives him more confidence. He has like a legit number one receiver. The Vikings were really, really lucky to have Diggs and Thielen at the same time. Diggs might be the best route runner in the NFL. Him and Keenan Allen are probably the best too, and Devontae Adams. They're like really good route runners. Just got to give the Bills credit for not settling and not just keeping the receivers that they had. They knew that Josh Allen has a lot of potential to be like a really good quarterback, and they didn't just sit there and like, oh, hopefully he develops with what we have. They got rid of it first. They brought Diggs in. Now it just bolsters like not just your number one receiver, but now your number two receiver. It used to be your one. He's your two now. So like just across your whole depth chart, it just makes your wide receiver corp look way better. And then it just keeps the defense honest. Diggs could go deep. He could like pick you apart in the bottom. He was matched up against Jalen Ramsey for a part of the game, so he didn't have the best stats, but just the threat of Diggs kind of opens up everything. And I feel like that's what teams with young quarterbacks should do. You should always try to get your quarterback a weapon. I'm looking at you, Jets. Get Darnold the weapon. Like, it's pathetic, the wide receivers that Darnold has with the Jets. I feel bad for the guy. He has like nobody. He has nobody to throw to. Jamison Crowder is like his star wide receiver, and he could be like a number 3 on any other roster, or on most rosters he'll be like a number 3. And he's their number 1, and now he's hurt, so they have nothing. So just gotta get that out of my chest. The Jets, what are you guys doing? Like, give him some help. Like the Cardinals, the Bills, they get it. They have young quarterbacks. They traded for Diggs. They traded for Hopkins. Jets, give Darnold some help. That's a little off topic, but I just want to give the Bills credit, and I just want to get that off my chest for the Jets. Like, what are you doing? Like, give Darnold some help. The Bills look legit. The Patriots also look legit. So it's gonna be competitive till the end of the season. I did have the Patriots keeping their division crown. I do think they're gonna win. But after 3 weeks, the Bills are looking nice. The Bills are 3-0. They're number 1 in the division. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually hold on and win the division now that we're 3 weeks in. But I'm gonna stay with my pick. I'm gonna say that the Patriots win the division. But I do have the Bills having like the highest seeding of the 3 wild card spots. But the Bills are nice. They definitely have something with Josh Allen. They found their franchise QB after so many years. Like, they've had like J.P. Losman, Fitzpatrick. Man, they've had so many quarterbacks go through there, and it just looks like they finally found their QB. The other team in that game was the Rams. They look good. Not gonna lie, it looks like Sean McVay found his groove with Jared Goff and his offense again. Like, they look like a dominant offense again. They look like they found their run game. Henderson is looking like he's a good running back, so they could just run Henderson and do play action. And Goff looked like he's not playing like last year. Last year he played really bad. That's why I thought they were gonna be bad this year. I didn't have faith in Goff, but McVay is a great coach, and he has them playing good. And honestly, now that there's 3 wildcard spots, the NFC West might send all 3 might fill up all 3 wildcard spots. Like all 4 teams might make the playoffs. Like I have the Seahawks winning the division, and I had the Niners making the wild card, and I had the Cardinals in the hunt on my predictions podcast. I think it was episode 6 where I did my prediction for the season. I had the Seahawks winning the division, Niners getting wild card, Cardinals in the hunt, and I had the Rams missing out. But the way it's shaping out, Seahawks should win the division. Rams are gonna be fighting for a wild card spot. Cardinals are gonna be fighting for a wild card spot, and the Niners, if they could get through these injuries, they should be competing for a wild card spot too. So NFC West is definitely the best division in the NFL, and they might just send all 4 teams to the playoffs, which would be crazy. It's the first year that it's actually possible, since there's 3 wildcard spots. But that would be crazy. That would be insane. And NFC West is definitely the best division in the NFL. The other game I wanted to talk about was Titans versus Vikings. Vikings fall to 0-3. Tennessee goes to 3-0. Those teams I hit on one of them and I missed on one of them. The Vikings came into the season having like high expectations. They finally won a playoff game with Kirk Cousins last year, and then they lost, but they got that monkey off their back. So a lot of people had them making that jump, being like real contenders this year. And then the Titans, they had a Cinderella like finish to last season. They gave Tannehill a big contract, and I wasn't a Tannehill believer. I thought he was gonna digress or regress. I thought he was gonna turn into the Dolphins Tannehill, which was like all right, but not worth all that money. And I was right about the Vikings. I said they're gonna miss the playoffs, and they're 0-3 right now, and they have a chance to fall to 0-4. And I was wrong about the Titans. They're 3-0. They're in the division lead. The Jaguars, I don't think they'll compete against the Titans. The Texans are 0-3, so that's not gonna happen. And the Colts are 2-1, so that's their only competition. They're 3-0. They probably are gonna make the playoffs. 3 wildcard spots, probably 9 wins, gets you into the wild card this year, and they're at 3 already. So I want to give Tannehill a shout out or an apology for not believing in him. He has been playing great football. Derrick Henry finally got going. He had 2 touchdowns. He had like over 100 yards. And that offense is balanced. Once Titans get their wide receiver, AJ Brown, I think, once he gets back from injury, that offense is just going to keep getting better and better. So I was wrong about the Titans. I feel like I was right about the Vikings. Vikings are not going to make the playoffs. Vikings actually, for week 4, they play the Texans. And the Texans also had, championship, maybe not championship aspirations, but as the franchise should have felt like, this was a year to make another leap and go further in the playoffs, and another year with Watson. And now both the Vikings and the Texans are 0-3, and they play on week 4. And I feel like whichever one of these teams falls to 0-4, their coach is not going to make it. Their coach is not going to make it to the end of the season. Either Coach Zimmer or who's the coach for the Texans? I'm blanking out right now. He came from the page. Oh, Bill O'Brien or Coach Zimmer. Whoever loses this week 4 matchup, I predict that they're not going to make it to the end of the season, and they might not even make it to their bye week, because both of these teams had not championship, but like they're supposed to be in the playoffs. They had playoff aspirations minimum. They should both make the playoffs. I did predict they're both going to miss it, but as an organization, I know that they were going into the season as playoff teams. And for them to, one of them is going to fall to 0-4 unless there's a tie. There was a tie this week, but I highly doubt there's going to be one next week. So one of them's going to fall to 0-4, and that coach is not going to make it to the end of the season. They're going to be let go. Too much expectations, not enough results. I do think the Vikings are going to win. I have the Texans going to 0-4, and I think the Texans going to realize the mistake that they made by making Bill O'Brien their long-term head coach, and by making him their GM or something like that. He's a coach and a GM. So by whenever their bye week is, I don't think he's going to be their head coach anymore. But yeah, that was the Rams and the and the Bills. Great game. Another great game. Bears versus Falcons. My God, the Falcons just like torturing their fans. I feel so bad for Falcons fans. I used to be a Charger fan, so I could kind of understand like what the pain that you're going through. I remember as just I don't want to talk about it, but being a Chargers fan, like super bad playoff losses, giving away like big leads. I remember they gave up like a huge lead to Peyton Manning in San Diego. Like they were up 24, and he just came back and trashed them. But the Falcons just take it to a whole another level. And the fact that they lost, they were leading the Patriots 28-3 in the Super Bowl, and they blew that. And then I think last week they were leading 28-3 against the Cowboys. They had a 99.9 probability of winning, and they lost. And then they follow that up this week, leading the Bears 26-10 in the fourth quarter, and they blew that lead too. I feel bad for Falcons fans. I feel really bad for Falcons fans. They must be going through a lot of pain. Like, the Falcons are not helping their mental health. Like, if you're like, I would feel crushed if I was a Falcons fan, especially because they ended the season well last year. They have a lot of like good players, especially on the offensive side. Julio Jones, Ridley. They got Gurley. Matt Ryan's not a terrible QB. He's like pretty good. They probably felt optimistic going into the season, and now they're 0-3. Their season's pretty much over. I don't have them coming back from 0-3. 99.9% of winning the game last week. 99.6% of winning the game this week. It's just it must be exhausting. It must be so painful. I feel for Falcons fans. It's just terrible. They're the first team in NFL history to blow 16-point leads in back-to-back weeks. I think I saw a stat that said in the last 20 years, no team has blown multiple 16-point leads in the fourth quarter in a season, like in a whole season. The last 20 years, no one's done that, and the Falcons did it in back-to-back weeks. So it's just insane. Like, what makes it even like harder to digest if you're a Falcons fan is that it was against the Bears, and the Bears are 3-0. But they started the game with Mitchell Trubisky as their starting quarterback. And he is garbage. He's terrible QB. I have no faith in Trubisky. He can't read defenses. He can't progress from one read to the next. He's just a terrible QB. I don't know why they keep giving him chances. They should get rid of him. They should just own up that they didn't draft Watson or Mahomes. Just move on. Move on from Trubisky. He's not going to be your guy. He might have some physical talents, and he might be able to run, but and that's where the NFL is moving towards. But he's not going to be your quarterback. Just get it through your head, move on from him. But the Bears started Trubisky. They did a quarterback change. He was playing so bad that they had to put in Nick Foles. And then even after that, like he's driving the Bears down. He throws this pass to Allen Robinson. It looks like Allen Robinson has a touchdown. And then the Falcons snatched the ball in the end zone, and then they at first I think they called it a touchdown, and then after replay, because every scoring play gets reviewed, they gave the interception to the Falcons, so they wiped out the touchdown and they gave the Falcons the ball in their own 20. And when that happened, I was like, okay, this game's over. Like that had to go the Bears' way for them to make a comeback, especially because they hadn't really been doing much on the offensive side, again, because Trubisky was playing and he can't do much for you. And then they lost Cohen. He tore his ACL. So like bad things were happening for the Bears. Trubisky was playing, Cohen was hurt. They took a touchdown away from Allen Robinson, and they still came back on the Falcons. Like what's going on with them? How do you not? And this is why people give Shanahan a lot of slack for blowing that lead against the Patriots in that Super Bowl. It might just be the franchise. It might just be the head coach. He might just have to look at the head coach and blame it on him and not on Shanahan, because Shanahan is a great head coach. And I'm not really going to talk about the 49ers game this week. They played the Giants and they trashed them. Shout out to the Niners. They have like 10 players on IR, or like a lot of big name players that didn't play, and they just whooped the Giants. It might say more about the Giants. Just the Giants are just a mess. I feel sorry if you live in New York and you're a football fan. Like you're either peaking the Jets or the Giants, and they're both trash. But I still can't wrap my head around the Falcons. Like even when the comeback started, the Bears tried to just they were down 16, and it was the fourth quarter, so naturally you're gonna go for 2 point conversions on your 2 touchdowns and try to just make it a 2 touchdown game. And they didn't convert their 2 point conversion on the first touchdown they made, so it became a 10 point game. So it was still a 2 possession game. It became they got 2 touchdowns. They got 3 touchdowns actually, but once they didn't convert that first 2 point possession conversion, it should have brought like more life to the Falcons, knowing that like, okay, it's still a 10 point game. It's not an 8 point game, and we're just holding on to a 1 possession game. It's still a 2 possession game. We're in the fourth quarter. Let's just get a couple first downs and let's get out of here. Let's get our first victory and let's kickstart this season and hopefully turn it around. But nope, blew the lead, and then once the Bears scored, it was like, okay, we still got time. We still got timeouts. Matty Ice, let's see what you could do. And nope, he throws a pick and just ends the game right there. It must be so exhausting being a Falcons fan. If anyone's listening and is a Falcons fan, I feel for you, man. Like, you shouldn't be going through this. This is terrible. It's very heartbreaking. Even as a neutral fan, I'm a free agent fan, and I was like, oh, that hurts. That hurts watching what just happened. But like I said, the takeaways I had from this game, Trubisky's trash. That's my number one takeaway. He can't read defenses. He's not a quality QB. He should be a backup the rest of his career, unless he makes like huge improvements. Nick Foles should be I think they just did announce that he's going to be the quarterback moving forward. The Bears, I think they're still pretenders. They have a good defense, 3-0. Just the simple fact that they started 3-0, they might sneak into the playoffs. Especially now that there's an extra wild card spot. So if you're a Bear fan, you should be happy. You're 3-0. The right quarterback is playing now, and you made a nice comeback, so that should be good for the morale. If you're the Falcons, blow it up, man. Matty Ice, he's getting old. He's maybe like 33 or 34 now, maybe older. Fire your head coach. Once that comeback happened, I was like, honestly, they shouldn't even let him. I think his name's Dan Quinn, or something like that. They should just fire him on the spot. Like, they shouldn't even let him walk to the locker room and give a speech. Like, just fire him on the spot. Like, you can't blow a Super Bowl lead back-to-back weeks. It's so bad. I would fire him on the spot. He needs to go. They need something new. Another game that I really enjoyed on this weekend that just passed, Cowboys versus Seahawks. Great game. Great game. Like I said, the Seahawks are in the hardest division in the NFL. NFC West is the best division by far. Niners, Seahawks, Rams, Cardinals. I wouldn't be surprised if all 4 teams make the playoffs. I do have the Seahawks getting the number 1 seed and getting a bye and making it all the way to the Super Bowl. So I predicted that before the season started. Wilson for MVP, and he just broke the record for most thrown touchdowns in the first 3 weeks of the NFL season. He has 14. I believe the record was 12 or 13 by Mahomes. So he just passed him. He looks amazing. Like, he finally has a legit, like, big wide receiver weapon. Metcalf. He still has what's his name? Lockett. He still has Lockett. He can make it work with like any tight end. He's really good at just distributing the ball to his tight end. The run game, it'll get going. The Seahawks look dangerous. I think Adams got hurt. I haven't checked if he's fine, but Wilson has big enough shoulders to carry the load in the regular season. They will need Adams in the playoffs, but Wilson is just a star right now. It's crazy that he has never even received 1 vote as an MVP in the like 8-year career that he's had. But this year he's coming. He looks like he's the best QB in the league. A lot of people said Mahomes. A lot of people think Mahomes is the best QB, and there's a big gap between him and the rest of the league. I say no. I say Wilson's right there. He's as good a quarterback as Mahomes, and on his day, he might just be even better. Like Wilson is the truth. I love Wilson. He's a baller. He's so good. Metcalf, he had a touchdown catch, like a long touchdown catch, and he got like complacent. He thought he had dusted his defender, so he was just holding the ball really loose. Defender comes out and punches him, goes into the end zone, goes through the back of the end zone, and they get a touchback. He'll learn from that. It's good that it happened during the regular season. It's good that they were able to get the win. And then afterwards, they talked about how like Wilson went up to Metcalf and he's like, "Hey, you can't lose your concentration. You gotta you gotta finish every play." And then Metcalf, it looked like he took it good. He was like, "You know what? You're right. Like that was my fault. I apologize. It won't happen again." And I do think Wilson's a good enough leader. Whereas when he comes up to you and he tells you that, "Hey, you can't be fucking up like that. You gotta keep it together. You gotta focus." He's a great leader, and I feel like he's approachable and he knows how to talk. He knows how to communicate. Where Metcalf won't take that in the wrong way. He'll be like, "Hey, I got you. Like, I'm gonna be focused for the rest of the game, for the rest of the season, for the rest of my career." So I think it was a good thing that it happened in the regular season and they were able to get the win and they got that out of the way. And now Metcalf probably has like a way better mentality. Like now he's like, all right, like they're right. Like that was dumb. I don't want to look dumb again. Like I'm gonna learn from this. As far as the Cowboys, they're 1-2 now, and they're tied for the division lead in the weak NFC East. And honestly, if I'm being honest, they're probably gonna win that division. The Eagles look horrible. Freaking Wentz looks like Wentz is starting to look like Trubisky. He's playing terrible. The one question I have is for Prescott. Like, is he gonna regret not signing that big extension that the Cowboys offered him in the offseason? I feel like he is. I mean, if you just look at his stats, he's not doing bad. He actually has like really good numbers, but the team is 1-2, and the team is loaded with talent. And part of the reason that they didn't give him the contract, or like the contract he wanted in the offseason, is because like the eye test is still not there, or like he's not winning you games that like other quarterbacks would win you. And I know a lot of people got high on on Prescott when he brought them back against the Falcons, but the Falcons just gave up a similar lead to Foles, so it kind of like dimmers the light that was being put on Prescott for what he did. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if Foles could do it, all right. Like, not to take anything away from Foles, he's a Super Bowl MVP, but objectively he's not like an elite quarterback. He just has his moments. So if Foles could do that, then it kind of like takes a little bit of the shine away from Prescott for doing it a week earlier. And now these are the games that you want your quarterback to win against the Seahawks, and he couldn't do it. So, like, is he gonna regret it? Like, they might make the playoffs as an 8-8 team or like a 9-7 team just because the division winner goes to the playoffs. So that he might get them in the playoffs, and then once they get in the playoffs, anything can happen. But if they miss the playoffs in the weak NFC East, the Cowboys are not gonna give him the contract that he wants, and he might have just missed out on a lot of money. So hopefully, for his sake, the team starts performing better and they get some wins going, but I don't see it. I think the NFC East is the worst division of football. I don't think they're going to have a team get 10 wins in that division. 9-7 is like the cap for whoever wins that division. They're just a bad division. And yeah, hopefully he gets his money. I mean, he did get a little greedy, so I can't feel bad for the man if he doesn't get his money. Like, they offered you like 120 or more with like a lot of it guaranteed, and you didn't take it. So if you don't get your money, you're the only one to blame. Another game, the last two games that I want to talk about, Packers and Saints, and Chiefs and Ravens. Quickly, Packers and Saints. Packers won 37-30. Uh, Drew Brees looks old. Drew Brees looks old. Uh, I have a Saints fan, my boy Zach, and he's ready to just give up on Drew Brees. He's ready to just move on. He's like, man, I don't care what he's done for us, which is kind of crazy, but he said that he's like, I don't care what he's done for us. And man has a noodle arm, like man, he's so washed. Like get him out of there. And I think he likes Hill a lot, the backup QB or like the gadget, whatever they have. And he messed up on the game too, and it kind of like turned the game around when he fumbled. But the Saints, I don't think the main problem for the Saints, I don't think is their offense, or I don't think it's Drew Brees. I think it's their defense. Their defense can't stop anybody. Like they made Derek Carr look like a awesome franchise quarterback. They had Carr talking about, I'm going to play the rest of my career here for the Raiders after Monday night, 2 weekends ago. And so the only reason he said that is because he felt good. He's like, man, that was a good Monday night performance. Like, yeah, I could go up to the podium and say, I'm gonna be playing the rest of my career here. And then he goes and plays the Patriots, and he gets humbled, and he basically looked like Derek Carr again. So I think that shows that the Saints don't have a good defense. They are missing Michael Thomas, one of the best wide receivers in the league, if not the best one. So I think that will help him once he comes back. But like I said, the main problem for the Saints is not their offense, even though they have been struggling. Don't get me wrong, but their main problem is their defense. They just can't stop anybody. They can't generate enough pass rush. The cornerbacks are bad. It's looking like they're gonna struggle this season if they don't get it together. And it's crazy because I think Drew Brees was considering retiring, and he came back just because he thought like he had a good team and they could run it back, and this could be their year. But it's not looking so good, man. Like their only victory was against the Patriots. I mean, not the Patriots, the Bucks, in week 1 when they were barely getting their feet wet, or they're getting together, and seeing how they were gonna play with Brady and their new system. So, I mean, Saints might be in trouble, man. They might not make the playoffs. I'm not hopping off yet. I think they'll turn it around. I think they'll still make the playoffs, and I think like by week 8 they might be like 5-3, and or like 6-2 around not 6-2, but like 5-3, 5-4, turning their season around, starting to get some strides. I'm not gonna jump off yet. I think Drew Brees still has one good year in him. I feel like he's gonna turn it around. Once Michael Thomas comes back, it's gonna change everything, and their offense is gonna start looking like the Saints' offense again. But I could be wrong. He might be over the hill. He might be done, and it might be they might have to put Winston in, which would be crazy. But as far as the Packers go, they're 3-0, and they're in good position to get the bye week in the NFC. I'm guess my pick was the Seahawks. I think they're gonna get the bye week, but the Seahawks play in the hardest division in football, so they got to play the Rams twice, Cardinals twice, and the 49ers twice. So that's 6 really tough games. Whereas the Packers, they got the 0-3 Vikings, they got the 1-2 Lions, and they got the Nick Foles 3-0 Bears. So easier division. Like they already beat the Saints, which was one of the teams that was gonna compete for the number 1 seed theoretically before the season. So who's really left? Who's really left to compete for that number 1 seed? Seahawks, like I said, iffy because they're in a tough division, and nobody from their division is gonna really challenge them except the Bears. But I don't believe they have. It's Foles against Rodgers. So obviously I'm gonna go with Rodgers. And then from the Saints division, the Bucks could theoretically push them for that number 1 seed. And then who's the other one? South, East. The East is just terrible. So it does look like if you're a Packer fan, it could be good for you. It looks like 3-0, great start to the season. And it looks like you guys are on track to get that number 1 seed. So shout out to all the Packer fans out there. It's looking like it's going to be a good season. Rodgers is looking great. This might be the year he gets his second chip. Last game I wanted to talk about, just real quick, Chiefs versus Ravens. It's basically the Chiefs, and then it's everybody else. The The Chiefs just dismantled the Ravens, which are supposed to be like the second best team in the AFC, maybe the second best team in the league, and they just looked outclassed. It didn't look like they really had a chance. You could just tell it's the Chiefs and then everybody else. Um, they should be the Super Bowl favorites to repeat again. Mahomes is a monster. He's the best QB in the league. Him and Russell Wilson could duke it out, but Mahomes has a way better team, just top to bottom. That offense, Andy Reid is a genius. I did have him winning. I did have him winning the Super Bowl. I had the Seahawks against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and Mahomes getting his second ring. And as far as the Ravens go, they're a good team too. Don't get me wrong, but the Chiefs are just way ahead of them. Mahomes outclassed Jackson. The last two MVPs going at it. I think Mahomes had 5 touchdowns and Jackson had like 1 or 2. But like you could just tell that there's levels to this. There's Mahomes and then there's Jackson. And Jackson still needs a lot of growing to do as a thrower. That offense needs to evolve more still. I think the Ravens should trade for a wide receiver to like really give Jackson like that help that he needs to take that next step, or to really like open up that offense and have like a legit number one. I was looking at their depth chart and they have like Hollywood Brown, Snead, Boykin. Like, man, like Hollywood is cool. He's fast. He's all right. Boykin, he's like all right. He's not bad. He's all right. Snead, it's just another wide receiver that's like bounced around the league. I remember him with the Saints. He was all right. But none of those 3 wide receivers like worry you, or like you're not like, damn, man, we're playing against Boykin this weekend. Like, what are we gonna do? Or we're playing against Snead this weekend. Like, damn, like get our best cornerback on him, get a safety over the top. Like, no, like none of these wide receivers like really worry you. And I think that's stopping the Ravens from taking that next step to being like a legit like championship contender, or it's putting a cap on how good Jackson could be, because he doesn't have that wide receiver that demands double coverage that opens up everything else. So if I'm the Ravens, I'm trading for a wide receiver. That's like the next step in your puzzle. You got to get a number 1 receiver to help Jackson. I was giving the Bills credit for trading for Diggs. I was giving the Cardinals credit for trading for Hopkins, and I was telling the Jets like, yo, you guys need to get Darnold some help. And I mean, Jackson has better wide receivers than what Darnold has, but like they're like, I mean, there's no household name there. I do have like ideas for who they should trade. Like, I made a little list. Number 1, I think the number 1 receiver that they should trade for is Allen Robinson. There has been speculation that he wants to leave and he wants a contract extension. He wants to get paid, so that might be an option. But the Bears are 3-0, so that might be hard. If the Bears were like 0-3 or 1-2, that might be easier. But since they're 3-0, they might have like some confidence that they can make some noise this year. So that might not materialize just because they're 3-0. Another option I have is Odell Beckham. Like, there was rumors too that he wanted to move on, or that the Browns wanted to move on from them. So I would make those calls. I would call the Bears. I would call the Browns. Yo, what's up? Like, can I get your wide receivers? If not, Devontae Parker. That might be a little easier to pull off. But he's a big body. He's 6'3". He could run. I think he ran like a 4.4. He could stretch the field. He's definitely better than what they have right now. And then some other options that I have. DJ Moore. He's very young, and he's like around the same age as McCaffrey. So I don't think the Panthers would trade him. But you never know. I would make that call. And then another one that I was thinking of was Julio Jones. Ridley looks like he's ready to just take that number 1 spot. He looks like he's ready to. I think he's in his 3rd year, and it's usually when they make that leap of like really, really like a lot of improvement. So, and the Falcons are 0-3, and they might fall to 0-4, and then at that point the season's done. They might fire their coach. They might fire their GM. They might blow that thing up. So, if I'm the Ravens, like, those are the teams I'm calling. I'm calling the Bears. I'm calling the Browns. I'm calling the Dolphins, the Panthers, and the Falcons. And I'm like, yo, let me get a wide receiver. and you might be able to just give some of your parts because the Ravens do have a good team, so they have parts all over the place. So you know, they could figure out a package to get a Jackson Sun help. But yeah, that was my takeaways from week 2 of the NFL season. Really, really, really. I mean, week 3. I keep seeing week 2. It's week 3. It was a really good weekend of football. I thoroughly enjoyed it. This season's going great. There's been a lot of good games, a lot of comebacks, a lot of crazy scores already, like comebacks. It's just been a really good season. I'm so glad football's back. It basically fills up my whole Sunday. Like, don't bother me on Sunday. I'm gonna be watching football. Also, wanted to talk about just quickly Matchday 3 for the EPL. There was a lot of controversy this week in the EPL, or maybe just this whole season, mainly with the handballs. Like, I think they changed the rules. Whoever's in charge of changing rules made handballs like way easier to call for refs. Like, it said if it's in an unnatural movement and it hits your hand, then it's a penalty. And like, just these refs have been just pushing that to boundaries that it shouldn't be pushed. Like, defender's not even looking, he's jumping. Like, obviously his arms are not going to be next to his body. They're calling penalties. It's influencing the game. It's causing ties to go to wins to get pushed further. It's not good for the sport. Like, 2 coaches have already spoken out on it, and even coaches that have benefited from it have spoken out on how the handballs need to change. And first and foremost, before we talk about like the games that happen, I agree with that. Like, you can't, like, the ref controls so much of the game in soccer, especially because it's low scoring. For the most part, like, games are usually decided by 1 goal, and whoever scores like a goal in soccer is such a momentum shifter. Like, it forces the other team to come out of their shell, or it gives you that confidence to, like, you know what, we got a lead, we could play more confidently, like, we could push forward knowing that we have a lead. It just changes everything. So to just be giving out penalties for like really small handball offenses is annoying. It's bad. It's bad for the sport. I think today or yesterday, it got mentioned that they talked to the refs and they told them to be more lenient, to not be so strict on that handball rule. So hopefully we see some improvement on match day 4 and going forward, because if it keeps going like this, I know it's going to turn off a lot of fans, or like a lot of maybe casuals that don't understand what's going on. Like, it just doesn't make sense to be calling penalties for no reason. And I know coaches are going to get mad. I know players are going to get mad. And it's just not a good look for the league. It's not a good look for soccer. So hopefully they're able to fix that handball issue. It's a bad rule. It's a bad rule, and they need to change that. But yeah, some takeaways from match day 3. EPL, yeah, man. EPL gets the most coverage here in the US as far as like leagues, worldwide leagues. La Liga's cool. I love Real Madrid. Barcelona's cool. Usually Spain dominates European tournaments, but EPL is definitely like the funnest league to watch. I just wanted to say that real quick. But some takeaways from match day 3. Everton won, and now they're like they're tied with Liverpool and Leicester for the lead. 9 points out of 9 points. That's crazy. Like, especially if you watched Everton play last year, they weren't a good team. Ancelotti couldn't get his system working with them. I think he got brought in in the middle of the season last year, so it's kind of hard to make stuff happen when he just come in the middle. But now he brought James in. He brought a couple other players in, and Everton looks good, man. They're fun. Their forward is like scoring goals for fun. It looks like a good team. They're just worried about the league. They don't have like European tournaments to worry about. The league and cups. Their squad is not that deep, so I think that really helps them. And Ancelotti's getting them to play like really, really good. James is a star. He's finally he has his team again. He's like, at Real Madrid, he was just another player. At Everton, he's their player. Like, they build around him, and it's great to see him shine. He's made some like lovely, like just scintillating passes that you see him make, and you're like, man, like, hey, good for him. He's making some good plays. So I'm happy for James. I've always been a James fan. Not always, but like since he broke into into like, you know, the limelight, like on 2014 World Cup, I've always liked his game. He's like very fun player to watch. He's like smooth with his movements. He plays very calm. So very happy for him. Happy for Everton too. Before I had an EPL team, Everton was one of those teams that I kind of like rooted, because they did bring in Landon Donovan for a little bit, and they had Tim Howard there for a while. So that was I never considered myself a Everton fan, but I always like kept an eye on them, or like I like watching their games. So good for Everton. 9 out of 9. It looks like they're gonna be up there. Like unless some players get injured, they should be a competitive team like for the rest of the season. So good for them. Shout out to Ancelotti, ex-Real Madrid coach. He won us the Champions League, if I remember correctly. Shout out to him. I hope he turns his career around, and like, you know, I hope he stays in Everton for a while, and he has like, you know, a successful spell. And Everton was always one of those teams that was for a while, they were always like one of those teams that was right beneath like the top 6 in the EPL, and always like competing like to push for Europa, or maybe push for Champions League. They're always like that, or at least for me, they were like one of the first teams that I thought of after like the top 6. And unfortunately, they haven't been doing that well in the last couple of years, but it does look like they're turning it around, and they're gonna have a good season, and I'm pretty happy about that. One game that surprised me was actually Chelsea versus West Brom. I had Chelsea competing for the EPL title this year. I said it was going to be a 3-horse race, and then everybody else. I said Liverpool, Man City, and Chelsea. Chelsea made some really good signings this year, or big signings. So I thought, like, damn, like they finished the year pretty good last year. They had a ban last year, so they couldn't really bring in players. This Lampard is gonna, you know, take another step of coaching this year. And man, West Brom is supposed to be like a bottom of the barrel team in the EPL. The first 2 weeks they got trashed. They look like going into this week, West Brom looked like they were for sure gonna get relegated. Like in my mind, I'm like, all right, West Brom is gonna get relegated. Their defense sucks. They haven't been playing good. They look like they're just in the EPL for vacation. Like they came up for 1 year, and now they're going back down. And thank you very much. So before Chelsea played West Brom, I hit up my soccer homies on group text, and I was like, damn, I have Chelsea putting four on them, like minimum. And then I think West Brom went up 3-0, and I mean, good for Chelsea for coming back and at least getting a point. But that shouldn't happen against West Brom. Like that's a team that you can't draw points on, especially if you have championship aspirations. And I mean, to be honest, those championship aspirations might just be top 4 aspirations at this point, because the defense doesn't look good. Thiago Silva, you're not in the French league no more. You're in the EPL. This is more competitive. You can't be lackadaisical with your passes. Ugly mistake by Thiago Silva. He's supposed to come in there and be a veteran presence in the back. They have like Christensen, Suma, like a bunch of young defenders. Ake's with City, my bad. But they have Suma, they have Christensen, like young center backs. Thiago Silva was supposed to come in and be that rock, and they gave him the captain ban, and he messed up. And I'm sure he'll bounce back, hopefully. But there's a lot of people that are already slandering him, already telling him like, yo, this is not the French league. You're not playing with farmers no more. This is the EPL. You got to get it together. And if he flops, then Chelsea's title chances take a big hit, because I thought Thiago Silva still had some gas in him. Like he still has some thread on his career, and he was actually going to help him on defense. But if he's causing them mistakes and he's not the player that I thought he was going to be for them, then that back 4 looks really, really weak. And that's probably going to hold them back this season. And with that being said, I also want to apologize to the MLS. Like I have said that the defense across the world of sports, of soccer, has been like going down. I feel like defense defenses are just not good anymore, or like there's a lot of mistakes, and especially when they happen in the MLS, I just harp on like, damn, like these mistakes are only being made in the MLS, and like they look like elementary mistakes, and then it just reiterates the idea that I have in my head that the MLS is bad or like not a quality league. So maybe those mistakes are just common and they happen all over the world, because I mean Thiago Silva had a howler of a mistake, and Liverpool against Arsenal, I'll talk about that game in a little bit, but Robertson had try to clear the ball and it goes the opposite way, and Arsenal gets like a tap in goal basically, and the Manchester City defense just looks clumsy, and they caused 3 penalties, and they look just super disorganized in the back, and just clumsy is probably the best word to describe City. Like defense, like they couldn't get out of the way of players. They're just clipping them in the back, and if you put those mistakes from those big 3 teams in the EPL, and you put like like LA Galaxy like uniforms on them, or you put like, you know, some earthquake uniforms on them, and those same mistakes happen, I would have harped on that mistake way harder. I would have been like, man, I would have seen the clip and I would have been like, what's going on? Like this vintage MLS with terrible mistakes. And I feel like maybe that just happens everywhere, and I just harp on it more on the MLS. I know for sure it does happen more in the MLS. I don't want to just give them so much credit. I'm like, okay, it just happens everywhere, but I do harp on it way more in the MLS. And if like the top 3 teams in the EPL are having these mistakes too, then maybe I should relax a little bit when they happen in the MLS. Because if Thiago Silva and players in Man City and one of the best left backs in the world are having these mistakes, I should just, accept the fact that mistakes like that happen. And if they happen a little bit more in the MLS, that's fine. That's cool. I'll back off the MLS for a little bit. But speaking of the Man City mistakes, they got destroyed by Leicester. Leicester's a really good team, and once Maddison gets fully fit, they're definitely gonna push for top 4 again. Last season they kind of blew it. They were top 4 like the whole season, and then at the end I think they finished 5th. But they have a quality team. Brendan Rodgers, he's a good coach. I've always liked him since he was with Liverpool. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get them that EPL trophy when he was there. I think he was the closest before Klopp that actually got them to like almost getting it. I think he was the coach when they choked that big lead, like at the end of like, I forgot what season it was, but you guys know what season I'm talking about, when it looked like Liverpool was gonna win and then they fucked it up. But he's a good coach. He's good for Leicester. Like I said, Man City's defense is terrible. They look super sloppy in the back. Pep Guardiola has never really like been a coach that focuses on defense. He focuses on possession and like being able to break down a defense and having like really good quality offensive players. And then he just has like, for the most part, he plays the high press back 4. But they look clumsy. Leicester exposed them. Leicester looked very smooth going forward, and that Man City defense didn't really look like they could stop him. And honestly, it could be a long season for Man City if they don't shore up that back line. And they're already 6 points behind Liverpool. They have 1 game less played, so they could just push it to 3. But we'll see if they're able to catch up to Liverpool. They definitely got to do something about their defense, though. They can't just move forward like that. There's no way they're going to compete for the title if they just keep that defense. It looks like they don't have a leader back there, Fernandinho, but he should be playing CDM. That's not his natural position. Laporte, like they need to get somebody there that just, says, "Hey, this is my defense. Listen to me, and like this is how we're gonna play." But yeah, just wanted Vardy scored a hat trick. He's a man. He's so good. 2 of them were penalties, and then another one was just a beautiful finish. Beautiful finish with his back heel. Ederson didn't know what was going on. Just Vardy's so nice. He's class. Respect for Vardy for just staying with Leicester and not leaving after their Cinderella season. And if you guys don't know his story, just real quick, he was like in the fourth division, and he just kept at it, and then came up with Leicester, and then now he's in the national team. He's one of the best forwards in the EPL. So I'm happy for Vardy. He's a great player. I'm happy for Leicester. They're another team that's like really easy to root for, just because of how they build their team and how they came up. So happy for them. Another team that's pretty easy to root for would be my Wolves. I know a lot of people say that they're a fun team to watch. They're easy to root for. And they got trashed 0-4 this week. So much pain. Like, I was so hurt watching that game. It's probably the worst game I've ever seen from the Wolves with Nuno as the head coach. They look kind of lifeless going forward. They look like they're running out of ideas as the game is going forward. Like they don't know how to break down the defense. They look uninspiring going forward. They need help in the back four. I feel like the defense is weak. I've been saying that. The only one that I really, really like is Cody, and he just got a contract extension. But the other one's Bali and Size. Like, they're cool, but I think they need to go out and get like a quality center back to really like fortify the back. Because giving up 4 goals to West Ham, that's just unacceptable. It's a bad look for the Wolves. I think it's their worst loss since they've been up in the EPL like 2 years ago. It was a hard game to watch. Thankfully, it was on Sunday, so I had the Wolves game like on my laptop, I think, and I had the football playing on the TV. So I was like, all right, the Wolves are playing like shit. I'm like, let me just focus on football real quick, and then I'll go back. And I'm like, damn, they're still playing like shit. So it was just a bad 90 minutes for the Wolves. They didn't really get nothing going forward. Like I said, it was just a bad game. I don't want to harp on it too much because it hurts to talk about it. Yeah, like going into they did a okay showing against City. The second half, especially, first half was bad. Matchday number 2, and then I follow this like beat writer for the Wolves. I forgot his name, but he was saying that losing to City is not gonna define your season, like these next 4 or 5 games. And then he listed like the 5 teams that they were playing after City, which was like West Ham, and then like basically middle tier teams. He was saying like that's what's gonna define our season, how we perform on these next 5 weeks. And I agreed with that after match day 2. I'm like, yeah, like there's nothing wrong about losing to City. Like they're a title contender, and we're like a mid-table team or upper mid-table team. So we should always want to beat City, and we have in the past. But if we lose to them, it's not the end of the world. And I was like, yeah, these next 5 games that's what's gonna define our season. And to start this 5-game stretch and get trashed 4-0 is worrisome. So I hope Nuno turns it around and they bounce back next week. But it's rough. I for the most part, the soccer teams I follow before the Wolves are America in Mexico and Real Madrid in Spain. So I'm always like a front runner, or I've always rooted for like the teams that are at the top of their respective leagues. I mean, Real Madrid has had some bad stretches in La Liga, but for the most part, they win most of their games just because they're Real Madrid or they're America, so they have like pretty good seasons. So Wolves is like one of the first mid-table teams that I've actually become a fan on. So, like, damn, this is rough. Seeing your team get trashed 4-0 is not fun. But, last game I wanted to talk about was Liverpool versus Arsenal, game of the week for the EPL Matchday 3. They both came in undefeated, 2-0. Arsenal had looked good. They killed West Brom on week 1, and that was kind of like, okay, like they're gonna have a good season. And then Liverpool started kind of slow against Leeds, I think, but then last week they looked good against Chelsea. So there was a lot of hype coming into this week. Arsenal versus Liverpool. It was going to be a good barometer for both teams. Like, if Liverpool takes care of Arsenal, then they just took care of a good team, and then it looks good for their chances going forward. And then if Arsenal plays good against Liverpool, not even if they don't beat Liverpool, but if they play good, then you're like, okay, Arsenal are on their way back to being like a top 4 team. And Robertson had like a very bad mistake that led to the first goal from Arsenal. And then after that, Arsenal had maybe like 1 or 2 chances the rest of the game. They didn't play bad, but Liverpool did look class. They did look like the better team. And it reassured me that I had them picking the league at the beginning. And after watching everybody play, Chelsea's weak back four, Man City's weak back four, Liverpool has their own mistakes in the back. Don't get me wrong, but comparing their back four with the other contenders' back four, Liverpool still comes out on top, and they have a really good offense. They just got Jota from my Wolves, and he scored on his opening game. So I'm really happy about that. Quality signings by Liverpool. They added depth. I think now they have the roster to compete in all the tournaments that they're going to be competing in, whether it's the Cups in England, EPL, Champions League, whatever tournament they're in. Liverpool has to go with the mentality that they're gonna compete, and they should be the favorites. I feel like that's the mentality that they got to go in to any tournament that they play in this year. They have amazing players in their starting 11. They have quality depth. Their captain's out right now, Henderson. They have probably the best keeper in the world, or top 2 or 3. I would say he's the best keeper in the world. They have the best defender in the world, Van Dijk. They have the best top 3 in the world in Mane, Salah, and Firmino. Firmino's been struggling, but Salah and Mane could carry that offensive 3. They added Jota, who's going to be a great sub or a starter in all these other tournaments. Liverpool, they should have treble season goals. Liverpool should go into the season expecting to come out with the treble. Anything less, you can still have a good season just getting the EPL or getting Champions League, but they should have treble season goals. That should be their goals for this season. It should be treble. There's no reason why that shouldn't be the goal for Liverpool. They have quality team, probably the best coach in the world. So yeah, if you're a Liverpool fan, it's looking real nice for you. It looks like your board is behind keeping Liverpool relevant and one of the best teams in the world. Quality signings, quality head coach, quality roster, great start of the season. It's looking good for Liverpool. And those were my takeaways from Matchday 3. Liverpool should be the favorites to win the season. Chelsea's back four is looking weak. Man City's back four is looking weak. Leicester's a fun team. Happy for them. Everton's a fun team. Happy for them. Wolves, uninspiring performance. Very, very, very sad. So much pain watching them. But yeah, that was Matchday 3 for the EPL. And this has been episode 8 of the Hard to Handle podcast. Thank you so much. If you finished listening to all of this, thank you so much for listening to me. And make sure that you watch Game 1 of the NBA Finals today. And go Lakers.